Here we go. Hey, everybody, welcome. Hey, filmmakers. Thanks for being here. Hey, audience members, thanks for watching these great movies. Welcome to our Q&A about movies on family and relationships, all part of the 2021 SF Indie Shorts Film Festival. Wish we could be doing this in person, but we have a good turnout. We're lucky to have these filmmakers with us. Real quick, just randomly, where are you guys calling in from? Where we got? I'm in San Francisco, California.
I'm Chicago.
Chicago.
I'm in LA.
Ames, Iowa.
Los Angeles too? Here?
Los Angeles again.
Los Angeles in the house.
Los Angeles is representing well in this film festival, I must say.
San Francisco.
Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Milwaukee, all right. Anton, did you say where you're from?
Yeah, I'm from Los Angeles as well.
Oh, okay, right on. Well, thank you guys.
Named.
Well, and JP Allen is also here with us. JP, say hello, wave your hand. He is on our screening committee. He is joining me today. We're very fortunate to have him chime in as well. Thanks, JP.
Thanks for having me. Congratulations to everybody on their films. I enjoy them.
Thank you.
Yes, we did. First off, real quick, let's just introduce ourselves so we can associate you with the movie that you made. Your name, your role, and the title of your movie. And a brief synopsis, elevator pitch of your synopsis, if you will, and I'll call you out. Rob, it looks like you're first on my grid, if you don't mind.
Okay, my name is Rob Ryuta. I was the writer, director, et cetera, on The Tough Guys Forget. And it's a movie about a young man who has to take care of his abusive father who has dementia and post-traumatic stress disorder.
Excellent, thank you. Congratulations. Carlos, if you don't mind going next.
Yeah, my name is Carlos Puertolas. I'm the writer and director of Frank and Emmett. And it's just a story of a relationship between a puppeteer and his puppet or his passion, let's say. Yeah.
Right on. Thank you. Betty, if you would.
I am Betty, live in Milwaukee. I directed Undecided, which is a film about three different women's perspectives on motherhood and abortion and reproductive rights.
Excellent. Fun film. Rosa, next on my screen.
Hi, I'm Rosa. I am the writer, producer, and one of the actors in Undecided.
Right on. Well done. Good to have you here. Hey, Aaron, thanks for joining us. You're next.
Yes, I'm Aaron Steinberg. I'm the director and editor of the film Chaotic Drumline, Drumming with a Difference, set on the South Side of Chicago. Chaotic Drumline is a performance group based on the South Side of Chicago, and aside from just playing music, they bring a little bit of hope and energy too.
Yeah, uplifting film, for sure. Anton, next, please.
Yeah, my name's Anton. Hi, guys. I am the co-writer and director of Break Any Spell, which is a film about a girl who's a LARPer whose mother is dealing with battling early onset Alzheimer's. So.
Excellent. Wonderful film. Thank you. Louisa, next, please.
Yes, hello. My name is Louisa Kendrick Burton. I am the writer, director, producer of Our Tent, which is the story of a family on an extended camping trip with a thought-provoking twist.
Indeed. Very clever. Well done. Stroby, am I saying your name correctly?
So, yeah, I'm one of those that couldn't figure out how to change their name. So, my name is Scott Strosall, also Stroby-Wan Kenobi, and at times. And I am the director, editor, a lot of things of The Last Guardian of Magic, which is about a girl who's trying to get on a train to visit her dying mother, and a guy who claims to have a magical map approaches her, and yeah.
Yep. And a charming film at that. Thank you. And someone just popped away. Okay. So thank you for those introductions. A wide, eclectic kind of mix of films on relationships, on family. But I'll let the filmmakers tell us more about them. What was the inspiration? What was the seed that made you make this movie? Where did it come about? And Stroby-Wan Kenobi, I'm sorry, I got to take advantage of that.
That's right.
Since we left off with you, Scott, how did it come about?
So this is actually the first film I've made that I didn't write, which was on purpose, because I just wanted to, that's how the pros do it, kind of thing, right? Like find somebody else, have them write, and just not do everything myself, basically. And I actually found the writer of this online, on a one of those sites that people post scripts, and I read 1,000 different, it seemed like 1,000 different scripts, found this one that I liked, and I sent the guy a message, and we talked a little bit, and hey, can I shoot this? And yeah, that's where the idea came from.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never worked. It's always been my own writing, that I produce or create. Louisa, how about yourself? What was the inspiration? How to start?
So spoiler in my inspiration. I have twins, and I would drive them to school, and we would just about any freeway underpass is there are just lots of people living on the streets. And my son said one day, he goes, "Ooh, look, they're camping." And it took me off guard because I didn't know how to process that for him in the 5 minutes left of our commute. But it stayed with me.
Yeah, interesting. Well, yeah, and here in the Bay Area too, also a growing phenomenon or problem, if you will. Anton, what was your inspiration?
Yeah, I'll try to be short with this. I guess my my mom was actually a support worker for 20 years, and so she really assisted a lot of people with Alzheimer's, and so the mental the illness was really dear to my heart for a long, long time. And I've also likewise been infatuated with LARPing, and I just love
Fascinated with what?
with LARPing. Sorry, it's live action role playing. It's actually a subculture in a community. And so I have a lot of friends in that community as well. And my sister, who can be here, actually is the co-writer. And we came up with this story. The more we thought about it, was felt like a natural pairing, as crazy as that seems, because if you talk to anyone in LARPing, they will actually refer to it as LARP therapy. And that is because it becomes it's such an amazing, inclusive community where a lot of people feel comfortable to really work out a lot of their internal struggles and conflicts through the characters they create. And also we also didn't want to tell a story just about Alzheimer's. We wanted to tell a story about people who live with people with Alzheimer's. So that's why I know that's a word, a mouthful, but yeah, that's
No, that was fine. That was pretty succinct. And you conveyed that theme, that topic eloquently. With that LARPing, new to me. It made it. It made it. It made it. I don't know, watchable. Let's say, for lack of a better word. So well done, Aaron. How did you come about making your fantastic film?
Thank you. Well, I was fortunate enough to work on a previous feature-length documentary called Tomorrow's Hope, also set in Chicago. I was the music composer and ultimately co-producer on that. And that film centers on early education and how it can possibly have benefits against a backdrop of serious systemic inequality. But one of the people in that film is Jamal from the Drumline. And as we got to working on that film, it was pretty clear that the chaotic drumline really seem to need their own piece, just about them. And so even though that's an element in the other film, to a couple of us, it was screaming out that the film needed to be made about this group specifically and more music oriented. And so that's how it happened.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely worthy of its own movie.
Thank you for saying that. Agreed.
Yeah. Betty and Rosa, you're in Betty's film, right? Yeah. Rosa and Betty. How did well, I'll start with Betty. How did the inspiration come about? And then Rosa, how did you get involved with Undecided?
So actually, I feel like Rosa should go first
Oh,
because
sure.
she's the one who wrote it and it was her idea.
Oh.
I kind of hop on after.
I'm sorry if you said that. I didn't pay attention. Go
No,
for
that's
it, Rosa.
okay. So I had this idea a few years ago and never did anything about it. And then in 2019, because of the current political climate, I had this strong desire to finish telling the story about motherhood and reproductive rights. And then during that whole process, I found out that I was unexpectedly pregnant. So the story kind of it's somewhat autobiographical in the sense of like what the characters are going through. I was also going through during my journey to decide whether I wanted to become a mother or not. And it felt really important to tell this story then, and then unfortunately still 2 years later, with everything that's going on across the nation, it's how it's even more important to start telling these different stories about motherhood and reproductive rights. A colleague of mine introduced me to Betty, and that's how Betty and the co-director Andy got involved in the project as well.
I see. All right. Fantastic. Betty, did you want to add?
I think she mainly covered it. When she sent the script, it just was immediately something I was interested in. Definitely have always really cared about. I'm a mom myself. So just, immediately connected to it and was like, let's do this.
Yeah, excellent. Rob, please. Inspiration, where did it start?
Well, I mean, guess it's about my father and myself a bit. I mean, he valued his intellect, so I was wondering what would happen if he did get dementia, and then I combined it with a few other things. And
He wasn't a gangster, was he? He wasn't in the mafia?
no, this guy, but he was a vet, and his father was a vet. So I just kind of took that together. Plus I talked to people who had parents with dementia, and I just kind of threw it all in. And I just wanted to make something that was from the heart, that, hit the hard things that were hard for me to talk about.
Right on. It does that well. Carlos, how did you get your idea? How'd your movie?
Yeah, well, I'm an animator. I've been creating characters for like the last 20 years or something like that. So I'm always been kind of interested in creating characters and then the relationship that you build up with these characters. I don't do puppeteering, but the animation side of things is very similar. You create a character, you get very involved with it, and almost become its own entity as you create this character. So I'm a very big fan of Jim Henson and the Muppets. So I thought I wanted to explore that idea, and what better way to do it like with a puppet. So that's why I created that little conversation, between the puppet and the puppeteer, and also in a way it's just kind of like playing with an existential conversation between an artist and his passion in a way, right? So that's kind of what the inspiration of all of that. It's kind of like my own life and learning between making characters, kind of thing.
Right on. And JP, I just want to let you know, please chime in when you feel inspired to do so.
Thanks. I'm just there's so many people, I want to make sure everybody gets to talk.
And then I'll keep going with Carlos. I can only imagine. I'm a narrative filmmaker. JP, I think, has made both films, narrative doc, but puppeteering, Carlos, how the heck do you do that? What was the challenges?
Well, since I've been so involved in making animation, it's pretty similar. I think, at the end of the day, the puppeteers are actors. And they're really great performers. The only difference is that their performance, using a part of a different part of their bodies, right? In the case of puppeteer, or for puppeteer Brian Jones, he's also an actor. So you will interact with him as you're talking to an actor. The difference is sometimes that they're so good at it that you find yourself communicating with the puppet instead of with the actual person who's under the bed. But these people are so professional. Brian Jones have worked on so many amazing projects that they become the character. So you can you can just direct them that way. So it was just like working with an actor, but with some technical differences.
Right.
I guess
Go ahead, JP.
Well, I was just going to say, thinking about a question that kind of applies to all the films. We heard how they were inspired, but it's interesting to imagine how the content went into the form that it has. For example, with the puppet, how the idea came into that particular situation, or with Rob's film, how it became the black and white film that has sort of the multiple cuts and so forth that it uses a lot. How did the content lead to the form that you chose? I think it's a question that interests me with all the films.
Yeah, well, let's go to Rob with that, since you brought his film up, and we'll ask everyone.
Well, I wanted to try to put the viewer in a place where they were as confused as Joe was half the time, but not so confused that they couldn't follow the flow of the story, which was the challenge of it all.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, really, I was just trying to get in his head
Right.
and convey that.
And
That
then
definitely
Anton,
came
I
across.
imagine, the doc format was just what it lent itself to capturing the chaotic drumline.
Yeah, and in fact, with the chaotic drumline, obviously there's a musical performance in it, but that doesn't tell the whole story. So being able to make multiple stops, what is the social impact? How are people being deterred from going into gangs and instead put their energy towards making music? What are the different instruments in a drum line do? How, bringing people behind the curtain. So rather than telling a story A to Z, because it's a documentary, there were still different stops sort of on the train that we felt were important to tell the stories.
Right. Louisa, how did your story and your material lead to the style and the format?
Um, Well,
Did it?
I went through several iterations of the script, right? Because as a mom, I always thought that I was telling the story from the mom's perspective. And then I made a last minute change to that once I met the DP, who I just was amazingly inspiring to me, was that it had to be told from the child's perspective. And that was really kind of gut-wrenching for me because, I have one job really, right? Keep my kids safe and get them to 21 so they can move out and ruin the rest of their lives if they so choose. Um, and but that is when it really just all connected, like all of the pieces came together when we decided to make that switch in POV. And then the style of it, like the DP was really great, and I just kept telling him this is what I want people to feel at every moment. And I don't know what that looks like on film, but this is what I want people to feel when this sequence is over. And he did a great job of we brought in some really great people. You'll notice that we only use music once, and that was by design, because I wanted the tent to be the tent and away from the outside, um, until it breaks in. So it was one of those experiences that, you just say, I want to do this and I just need the inspiration to come, right? And it does. Just everyone stepped in with the most wonderful contributions, and I could not have been happier with the way it turned out.
Yeah. And the lovely thing about filmmaking is the collaboration always, from what I've been able to see, makes the project even better. The movie becomes something bigger and better with the collaborative process. Betty, Anton, and Scott, your movies are kind of stylistic. How did you choose the look or the format? Betty, I'll continue with you.
Um, I'm not quite sure why Rosa put it where she did, but what I liked about it and thought was really interesting is it's like a bottle episode. You're in one spot, basically real time, kind of just following one interaction. And to me, it was like, how can you realistically get these characters to have a conversation that like a lot of us don't want to have? Like, I know, for example, for myself, I find it difficult to like confront people with other views that I generally really disagree with. So like, how can you have these people have that conversation without like kind of escaping? Because once you're gone and out of that, you're probably not going to continue it. So that's why I made, we chose, to like, it's all in the bathroom, it's all one spot, they're at work, and kind of keeps it contained, and you're kind of seeing all of it. And I don't know if Rosa has anything to kind of add, like why she chose that for her writing.
One of the reasons I said it in the bathroom is a lot of stuff happens in female bathrooms. When you're in your 20s, you always leave to go to the bathroom with your girlfriend. And that's kind of like this congregation place. So I felt like it's a place where we share our secrets. And so wanting to really set it in that type of like personal, almost sacred space for women. And I think what was really awesome about working with Betty is that she brought this collaborative spirit, not only on set, but also like within the characters. Like, how do we make each character distinct, but also not just women arguing and fighting, but like ultimately listening to one another in the end and like collaborating as characters, and potentially mothers and, advocates for one another.
Yes. Thank you. Aton.
I think, to answer that question, I would just say, I think it's not a stretch to say that when you have a mental illness as severe as like Alzheimer's, it's a battle, you know what I mean? And I think that that's a theme that's very in the whole story. And it's really about a girl who's really had enough of battling this at home, and we wanted to give her a literal battle to face, you know what I mean, to go on a quest. And so that really informed the storyline, that she goes on this battle. It doesn't really work out the way she wants, but then that gives her kind of the courage and the momentum to kind of face and confront the battle at home. So I would say that's what literally inspired the filmmaking and story. So
yeah. And Scott, same question.
So the hard thing we had was kind of balancing the sort of magical and whimsical side with kind of the serious of, her mom is dying and she's not there. And so you couldn't be too whimsical and happy with the serious side, but I didn't want the whole thing to just be a downer, because there's the hope and, the magic side of it. And trying to find that fine line there was the hard part, especially with the music, was where I really had a hard time, because and I ended up finding somebody to do most of the film as an original score for it, because if you try to use any music that's already made, it's either too much one side or too much the other side, and trying to find that balance in between. And then we also had the same problem with the main guy. Like, he's kind of creepy. He's just approaching this woman in a train station and like, hey, you want to see my map, but we didn't want him to be a creepy guy, but so there was kind of this, how do we balance all of these opposing sides and try, and so that's kind of how we ended up where we were, just trying to keep the and ultimately kind of the feel, I guess, was we were kind of going for sort of nostalgia, because she's having these remembering her time with her mom when she was younger and having these flashbacks. So we were kind of trying to have a feeling of nostalgia a little bit, I guess. And
yeah, you've created that for sure. I felt that.
Yeah.
JP, another question, since that one was so excellent.
Well, the thing that comes to mind with a lot of these is the acting. Because there's such good acting in all these films, and it seemed like that was a real foundation to all these films. I'd like to hear more about how their process was in working with the actors.
And if I could add to that, I agree with that question. But let's start with the doc for Aaron, because they're not actors, obviously, but they were so open and
Farmers,
and I mean, they're fantastic. So
Yeah.
were they nervous in front of the camera at all, or they just were willing and used to it?
Well, yeah. It took a little getting them to open up a bit, but I had worked with them before a little bit on the other film, but it took a little bit of trust. But I'd established a relationship, so I think before you start rolling, if you can get the trust of the people you're working with, that comes out.
Mm-hmm.
And I bet we all have that feeling to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
And I was lucky, to work on a project where these guys had so much to say.
Yeah, true. Louisa, how did you establish such a great performance?
Luck.
Casting.
Fasting. I mean, I made like this very strange mistake that ended up being a gift. The young boy in my film was 6 at the time that I hired him, and I was looking for an 8 or a 9-year-old. And I just didn't look at the paperwork. I just looked at his submission, and we brought him in, and it was just a really good lesson in not discounting people because of their age, right? Because
Uh-huh.
I brought him into the room, and he was like, hi, and he had all this energy, and he was, just lively. And I was like, oh dear, the subject matter, right? And the minute I said, all right, action, it would, like, everyone in the room, we all just like froze because he just
Mm.
calmed down to this place that I had never seen.
Yeah.
Bennett Line is an amazing young actor, with great parents, and we were able to talk about this issue, and he understood so much more of it than what was on the page,
Right.
that I was so grateful on having brought him in. And then I had well, Chris Arvanades is a friend of mine, and I knew that he could to play this role. So there was no question as to him. But for the women, it was just a wonderful journey of trust. Everyone I brought in, I said, I just want to plant this tiny little seed in your mind. I'm not going to give you any direction. This is the seed,
Yeah.
right?
I like that. Nice.
And every one of them brought such wonderful things. I mean, we sat there for an hour after the casting, the callbacks, because we just couldn't decide. But at the end of the day, Susan, she just had such a wonderful take on it. She had all of the things that I wanted, which was the compassion for both her husband and a mom with a young child, and this ability that we always have to want to make things fun, even in the worst possible scenario. And she just had the right combination of that. So yeah, luck. I
Well,
got a
I would
great
say,
amount of people.
yeah, I would say lucky too, because kind of an independent filmmaking rule. First couple films don't use kids.
Kids.
Uh,
And a baby who was, I thought was 2. Again, what was going on in my mind? And then they were like, yeah, she's going to turn 1 and she'll start walking. And I was like,
very challenging.
okay, well, maybe
Well,
that's good, right? She'll just sit there, maybe. I don't know. She
yeah.
cried for the first 45 minutes. We just let her
Ah.
roam.
And then Scott and Anton also. What are you thinking having kids in your movie and a low budget indie film? You crazy?
Well,
Scott.
so one thing that helped with us having a kid, which kind of like Louisa was saying, I intended to have someone a little older actually. And it was written to have someone a little older. But that was the daughter of the mom. So the main actress, her mom that she goes to, that's dying, that she sees, that her daughter in real life was the younger version of the the woman, which worked out well because she was going to be there anyways, bring her daughter along, and also because it meant she kind of looked like she could be, her daughter, because she was. So that helped a little bit, and that also helped a lot with, the only real, she's just briefly in it, she doesn't have any lines, so that helps a lot if your kids don't have to have any lines. And most of what she had to do was interact with her mom, which is her real mom. So I just kind of said, go over there and do what you normally would do and tell your mom a story. And, it was pretty easy because she was just kind of being herself. So
Again, casting, good casting.
That's right. Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of kids, I mean, I probably had the easiest out of everyone because I mean, this was shot, believe it or not, pre-pandemic, and so that is a reason why they look probably a lot younger. They're all probably in university right now, so I had no trouble at all. They're like the super most mature, smartest kids I've ever met. I don't even feel like I think they would get upset if I called them kids. I don't know, but I would say that in terms of casting in general, I think it was slightly awkward in the sense because I decided really early on that I was just going to get to really, get to the heart of it, throw them all into kind of the most emotional moments, the most uncomfortable moments, especially that final scene. And so I wanted that could really reveal, hey, can they handle this maturity, this super sensitive subject matter? And fortunately, both of them were super stellar. And I would say that especially a lot of the people we did cast in the end both I don't want to kind of go divulge too much about their own life stories, but they did draw from real life experiences when it comes to Alzheimer's patients. So
Yeah, thank you.
So that really helped.
Yeah. Continuing JP's question, Rob, how'd you get such wonderful performances?
Ryan, the guy who played Daniel is a guy who's a locations manager in the local area, and I met him because I do production design on independent features. And I just thought he had the right charisma and look and kind of this good-looking, depressed-looking dude, but he wasn't depressed, so it looked all right. And then the other guy, I had drawn storyboards that looked like my grandfather, and then when I was looking around, I couldn't find somebody, and then I ran across this guy who looked just like my grandfather, and I was like, well, that's probably right. So I brought him in. He'd already done many features, and I had them come over for like an afternoon at my house, and then we improvised scenes so they could get a feel for what's going on beyond what was written, and then we just did what I wrote, plus threw in some improvised stuff on the edges.
So you had a non-actor working with an actor.
Yeah. Well, he does his own stuff, his short films. He's acted in his short films.
Oh.
Ryan has, and then the other guy has done more feature work.
Oh, impressive. Betty, how'd you get such wonderful performance out of Rosa there and the other two?
Oh, what a challenge. No. It was awesome. I mean, obviously it's great right away to have Rosa. We did casting and it was a challenge to choose. We had so many people that we loved. We were really going for like chemistry and like who would read like really effortlessly as friends, just because they had to be like in a conversation the whole time. You're really just with them every second. So it had to have like a real good flow. And yeah, we just loved who we ended up with. They just knocked it out of the park. Rosa like did read-throughs with them before. Since I kind of lived a couple hours away, I wasn't able to make it, but they met and had gone over the script a few times and kind of built that rhythm a little bit. And then on set, whatever takes they wanted to take and just kind of let them play and try different things. And I feel like just kind of a real relaxed feeling. Just real familiar and fun, and just kind of like let them do what.
Yeah,
they
sounds like
wanted.
you created a creative space for the actors, a trusting space. Is that true, Rosa?
Oh, definitely. And I think one thing that helped is that all the other two actors, along with myself being in Chicago, we all do a lot of theater on a regular basis. So having that strong theater background. And one thing that Betty and I didn't realize during the casting process is that Dana and Amanda, the other two actors, are actually like really good friends in real life. So that was just a happy coincidence that we found out on set. And I think that really like helped with the chemistry that they were able to bring to the roles.
Yeah.
And again, just having like a director who's willing to just like let the actors play and have fun, and Betty did that. So as an actor, it was a lot of fun to be able to explore that in a role, which you don't always get working with film because you're time wise, whereas with theater you get that rehearsal process. So we got to have a little bit of both, which was awesome.
It's very sweet to see you two still enjoying and appreciating each other after a film.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I could not have done this without her. I thank her all the time.
They don't always end so well. And Carlos, how about you? How'd you get such wonderful performance out of a puppet and a human?
Yeah, well, I think for us was like, somebody recommended me. I made a lot of little short films, but very small, like nothing. I never have a casting director, and in this film, somebody said, you should find a casting director, let's make it a bigger thing. So I was like, okay, let's do that. We were very lucky to find Alan Luna, which is a casting director that there's no way we would be able to afford, but he really liked the script and he went, I wanted to help you guys, so let's do this. I think I was very lucky because being able to send the script got us a lot more than we thought we were going to be able to get. So in terms of the casting was same process, finding the roles. Really, we just have 3 roles, so it was a little easier. But with somebody like Paul, he was playing Frank, the puppeteer. That was like a connection with the material. Again, he is an amazing actor, but he also has done a lot of voiceover work for animation and creating characters for animation. So he read the script, and it, our budget in terms of payment was not in line what we probably, but he was like, I'm going to do this role, like it doesn't matter, like I'm going to do this, I want to work on this. So we were really lucky that way. And in terms of our puppeteers, they were also very inspired by the material, and obviously they are puppeteers. This story revolves around a connection between the puppeteer and the puppet. So for them was, again, very much a personal connection with the material. So I think that's why we got the performances we got, because they really connected.
Yeah, and all those elements, all those collaborators elevated that short to just the great status. It's a wonderful little film. And last question, unfortunately, Carlos, since I'm on you, famous last words. What is maybe something you hope audiences feel or walk away with from watching your movie, or any other comments you'd like to make? Now's your chance.
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess in a little bit the thematic of it is it's a kind of a celebration of anybody who have found their passion, and you being able to kind of transmit that passion to whoever, your kids or your friends or whoever it is. I think that's kind of like the main thing that I would like people to get out of the film when they watch it.
Sweet. Yeah. Very sweet. Rob, what do you hope audiences, what emotions do you want them to feel? What do you want them to get out of the movie?
I hope they feel good after it, and maybe a little confused, and maybe they feel it's sometimes better to give than to get.
Okay, very good. Rosa?
I guess my biggest hope is that it's a call to action for people to keep fighting for reproductive rights for everyone. Very good.
Aaron, how about you? What do you hope audiences feel from your movie, get from your movie?
Well, I hope that the larger message is that the future and the present don't have to be the same as the past. Change is possible, and I think music is one of the ways you can get there, but one of many. And I think from a filmmaking perspective, I'd like to add that we had a really hard, tight deadline, and that also makes things possible. So for filmmakers, sometimes the deadline, although it hurts at the time, is actually your friend and gets you across the finish line. And for that, we particularly have to thank producer Tamara Raven on our end.
Indeed, deadlines are helpful for us creatives, for sure. Louisa, how about you? What you hope people get from your movie, and also words of advice like Aaron just gave us for us fellow creatives, or anyone.
Sure. I think things are not always as they appear when we see people and meet people. So compassion.
Good one. Yes, compassion. Betty, you want to chime in on this question?
Sure. I guess I hope it inspires people to maybe have hard conversations.
How about just have conversations? Indeed, I agree. Anton.
Yeah, I would just, there's no easy answer with, I guess I really debated this a long time. So I would just say finding hope and strength in small victories, finding where you can find them in some ways, because yeah, that's what I would say.
Very sweet. Scott, how about you?
Yeah, I guess maybe that people will have a new appreciation for the time they have with their parents specifically, but other loved ones, and also just not to forget about kind of that hope and belief in magical things that you have when you're younger, and then you kind of lose that as you get older and get cynical. So
true. JP, you want to say anything to the filmmakers before we part?
Just that I think we did get a lot of the things that they're talking about from their films. So congratulations, and thanks, Jason, as well for picking those films. Excellent.
Yeah, indeed. I agreed. JP, you guys did convey all that, and you did capture special kind of experiences for all viewers. So congratulations, and thank you for submitting to the film festival. Thank you for being in the film festival and for making your movies. And this is goodbye for now. I hope to meet you in person someday soon. And that's all the time we have today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great work.